Sup Shredders, my name is Logan, aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reacts, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named EIAF, titled Whoever You Need. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on Spotify here with the art up on the screen with the two roses here. We're going to listen through this track from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Let's do it, let's go. What do we have? Oh, the DI tone of the guitars and the bass here.
I can be your atom, you can be my Eve. I don't think it was random, I think we were meant to be. If the world was ending and there was no way to flee, it's you I'd be defending, that's how it's supposed to be.
Are there cymbals in the background as well?
No matter if you're in heaven or hell, I'll be ringing death's doorbell to be with you for the rest of my life, cause it feels so right. No walls can stop me from reaching you. No matter what life gives, you know I'll always be loving you.
Is that a tambourine, I suppose, as well?
I'll never leave your side, I'll never let go of your hand. I'll take you on a hell of a ride until the very end. I'll be whoever you want, I'll be whoever you need. You know I'll always be in front to make sure that you don't bleed. No matter if you're in heaven or hell, I'll be ringing death's doorbell to be with you for the rest of my life, cause it feels so right. No walls can stop me from reaching you. No matter what life gives, you know I'll always be loving you. Love is what I give, and hope is what I get, and love is what I give. I'll be whoever you want, I'll be whoever you need. That's how it's supposed to be.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a really charming piece. Really good first impression to the music. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion, my review of this track from an act named EIAF, titled Whoever You Need. So in this section, we're going to give an overall song analysis plus a sort of providing sort of applicable constructive critique. And then finally, my general sort of thoughts from a listener's perspective. But first of all, what do we think this track's about? I think this track is about someone declaring their love at like a foundational level, you know, they're Adam and they're Eve, etc. Talking about what they'll do whatever they can to sort of make this work with this other person. And I feel like it's just a really romantic track. It's and clearly, you know, it's about love, but it's just also very wholesome. I think part of that is the way that the vocals are handled here. It's a very earnest take here. I think it's been double tracked, so it's got a lot of presence in the mix. But we're very sort of like careful with our melodies and our double tracking to kind of cover things along. I think that the melodies are memorable and work well within the major or minor triads or leanings within the piece. And there's a consistent sort of expression throughout the piece which kind of insinuates that our love is going to be a stable thing that they can rely on. Outside of the vocals, which I think sold the message really authentically, you've also got a structure to this track, with it being 2 minutes 39, where you have different instrumental parts as well as verse and chorus parts. And I feel like the transfers between these sections are effective. They're not overcomplicated. You have the main instrument, aside from the vocals, being the guitar, with some bass and drums behind it. The drums, albeit a little bit more subtle in the mix. I would have liked to have had a bit more volume for them, but I feel as if there was a lot going around in the center of the stereo field anyways, so that kind of maybe we're just trying to sort of like figure out what our focal points were. What I liked about the structure, I suppose, in part, is that we didn't just have everything at once. The guitars came in initially. We didn't just throw everything at the listener. We were sort of trying to warm them into it. The bass coming in alongside, kind of reuniting with the guitar, or kind of forming within that, being nice and sort of like balanced in the low end, and like playing a similar groove or rhythm to what the guitars were strumming there with those various open chords there. And I think the use of the open chords with guitar, those kind of shimmery bright chords, illustrated a sense of hope and optimism for the relationship they were potentially going to have. And then there's a nice sort of round tone to the bass as well, which gives a bit more sort of body and helps to offset any of the find equilibrium with some of the brightness of the guitar as well. So I feel like the bass and guitar are well balanced, they're very sort of aware of each other and are great partners. There's an overall kind of like chord note groove to this that is in part instantiated by those occasional tambourine hits that you have, either going on the 1s and 3s or the 2s and 4s. I think that the counter rhythms that they have with some of the snare parts, even though they're a little bit kind of subtle there, and the crashes which kind of like fade into the ether on the sides there, but they're introduced before the main sort of drum parts. There's just this kind of segmentation of certain elements, and we build as we go along. But like, it's also not a track where there's a massive amount of dynamic range either. Like, we don't develop into this massive conclusion or something like that. It's almost like we're trying to sort of show the listener different sides of the coin, and sort of show our love in different ways instrumentally. I liked the hummed vocals around the 2:14 mark because it shows that we know that even in such a short form factor song, we're not overstaying our welcome with the storytelling. We're allowing our vocals to be a melody as well. So I think instrumentally it works really well as a single. It's very sort of easy to understand and accessible from a lyrical, vocal, instrumental perspective. The thematic, or other themes of it, you know, you can get behind it sort of seeming like a very sort of like indie kind of grassroots project there, not just from like a production perspective, which we'll talk about in a moment. I mean that in a good way, by the way. But also just, we're not overcomplicating the harmonies there. We've got a sense of joy, I think, in the process of what we're doing there. I feel like we could have potentially, well, I think if we tried to overcomplicate the chords with extensions or anything like that, it might have sort of muddied the water a little bit. I think we're trying to be very straightforward with how we felt about this person. And so I think, again, major and minor chords and the themes are great. And just kind of reinforcing and modulating back to that is a smart choice if you don't want to sort of distract from that. At the studio recording, mixing, and mastering, first of all, before I go any further, my understanding is that we're going to be potentially doing a remaster later on, like, you know, publishing like another version of it. But I feel like for like a first impressions, there's a lot to enjoy here. I think if you first of all had overproduced this and things had been too sort of clean sounding or too sort of like sterile, it would have defeated, I think, the aesthetic they were going for there, where it's kind of very kind of like grounded in their love for this person. I do think we could have potentially, I'm not sure if we double track the guitars. If we have, sometimes when you track guitars, you can, like, sometimes people will copy one take to the other side and they'll be symmetrical, but the problem with that is they phase and then the guitar ends up more in the center. So we just, if we are recording double guitar takes, we want to sort of spread them on the sides. I feel like if we aren't doing that, we probably ought to do double rhythm guitars, because it just helps to sort of widen the sound of the track and allow more resonance for the vocals in the center. I think the bass was placed really well though. The drums, they sounded a little bit quiet in the mix. And I just feel like, again, it could have been like an EQing thing, like allowing for certain filters, certain notes. But I think also it could be a panning thing, just things were quite busy in the stereo field. But I think, again, for like, this is a really good start to proceedings, and I can hear both the highlights of what it is as well as the potential for that further second round. So the vocals as well, I think that vocals were double tracked, and I like the fact that that was done, because again, it gives vocals more presence when you double track them, and you have to be able to hit those notes. So the fact that we could was really good. And ultimately, I just think that if we'd done more with the vocals to try and sort of color them or saturate them, I don't know if it would have necessarily been a betterment or like a positive. It would have simply made it a bit more sort of like, it just seems like you're kind of more sort of calling out some in a live environment, having a conversation or a monologue with them. But yeah, there were a few resonant frequencies maybe in the low end, but again, we're like continuing to learn as we go. It's nice to know that pumping bus compression limiting is handled. I just think generally there was like a hierarchy of the leveling of options. Like, I think the vocals were the most prominent, and then the guitars were secondary. And I just think for future reference, if we can both listen to our tracks in mono as well as in stereo via the headphones or digital audio workstations we're doing, or even do like a car test or a phone test, all the different types of tests you can do. Use someone else's car if you don't have one. You know, like, it's using listening through these tracks on different devices to really sort of be able to sell it. But Ultimately, no other real applicable constructive critique aside from that. I think it would depend on like the further context of other releases. From a general listening perspective, I think that EIAF is 15 if I'm not mistaken. I won't say much more than that. I don't know how much, but like just the fact that we're able to do something like this at that age is really impressive. And I don't mean that in the patronizing way. I sincerely am impressed. I admire so many kind of like young people getting involved in music production, trying to sort of like do more with it and make the most of the opportunities and technology that's present nowadays. And I also furthermore just really appreciate the purpose and reason for the song. I just think it's really sweet. And I wish them all the best of luck in their future endeavors, because that's my review of this track from an act named EIAF, titled Whoever You Need, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP Reacts. Spiderhands out.